Now, we've had a good look at for loops, but in this video I want to show you another type of loop, which is actually the one that I use slightly more often than for loops, and that is the while loop. Essentially, it doesn't do anything that the for loop doesn't do, but it's a different construction which might make more sense to you, or at least be more flexible for you to use in your program. So you definitely need to be aware of it. Let's see how it works. So with a while loop, we normally define our counter variable outside the loop. So I'm just going to do a standard var I is equal to 1, and then the loop just says while I is less than, let's say, 5. So this will then keep going as long as I is less than 5. Now, hopefully Xcode won't explode at the moment, because in here it's going to currently do an infinite loop. I need to put in something like I++ to increment my variable, to add 1 to it each time. And then that will work just like the for loop does. So we're just putting everything in a different place. This is our variable definition. This is our rule for as long as the while loop will happen. And then this is our rule for what happens each time. So if we print the value of I to the logs, we should just get 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we would with our for loop. So nothing hugely different really. There we go. There's our outcome. As I say, it is just another way of writing essentially the same thing. The particularly useful thing about while loops, I think, is the fact that the rule for I is here inside the loop, which means that you can potentially change it if you want to, or at least it can depend on something which you're working out in the middle of the loop, which is not really possible for the for loop, where the rule is defined right at the beginning. But that's about it. Let's use a while loop to create the first 10 even numbers. So 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way up to 20. Go for it. All right, hope you managed it. It's fairly straightforward. We'll start with I is 2, and we'll keep going as long as I is less than or equal to 20. And we want to increase I by 2 every time. And then all we need to do is display I. So that will give us, oops, sorry, I need to put a space in there. That will give us the first 10 even numbers. There we go. You could, of course, have done it the other way that we mentioned last time, with I is equal to 1, going up to 10, using I++, and then displaying I times 2 in the logs, which will achieve exactly the same effect. Great, so you've got the idea of how it all works. What if we want to loop through arrays with a while loop? Well, there's no built-in system, and I would definitely recommend generally using the for loops for looping through arrays. It's a little bit neater. But you can do it with while loops, and it gives us an opportunity to see a couple of features of arrays that we haven't seen yet. So let's take a look and see how we do it. Let's create our array again with 4 numbers. So if we want to loop through this array, we could start by creating a variable called index and setting it initially equal to 0, which is of course the index of the first number in the array. And then we can keep going as long as the index is less than the number of items in the array, which is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will give us 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we just have to println ARR index. So that will do the same job. Whoops. As I've mentioned before, don't forget to increment your index, or Xcode will go slightly mad and keep on running your code forever. There we go. 6, 2, 9, 1. So I don't think that's quite as neat as using the for loop myself, but it does the job and might be more useful to you in some circumstances. One thing is that we often don't know how many posts our Facebook user has or how many users there are in the database. And we don't want to hard code that into our code here. So how would we get this number for the number of items in the array? Well, there's a very easy way to do it. We use arr.count, and that just returns the number of items in the array. So in this case, 4. So now if we change this to add a couple more numbers, we don't have to update our code down here to manually put in how many items there are. Xcode will do that for us, and we still get the whole array. So that's all you need to know about while loops at this stage. I just want to give you one more challenge. So create an array with, again, let's say 6 numbers this time, and use a while loop to decrease every value in that array by 1. Good luck. Okay, easy enough. Just create your array. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's our 6 numbers, and then we'll start by setting our index to 0, and then we'll keep doing our loop as long as index is less than the number of items in the array, which is array count. Don't forget your I++. Oops, sorry, not I. We're on index now. So index++. And to decrease them by 1, we just need to say array index equals array index minus 1. And just to confirm that that's worked, let's display our array. There we go. Everything is 1 less than it was before. So congratulations, you've learned about all of the basic programming constructs in Swift. That is variables, arrays, dictionaries, and also if statements and while loops and for loops. In the next video, we're going to start making our next app, which is an app that will tell us whether or not a number is prime. And this will be an opportunity for us to see how we can actually use the playground to start to work on our app before we actually then go and build the thing in Xcode itself. I'll see you in the next video.